standing in front of you today is Koskona Eric Masubu, and I will be presenting a topic under weathering, with the key aspects being soil erosion and deposition. So as I said, our topic today is weathering. So the first part of this lesson will be that I will play you a very short video of that will explain what will be happening when there is a process of weathering, there is a process of erosion, and there is a process of deposition. So please, can you please look at the screen?
The journey of a river. Oceans and seas are always full to the brim, but where does the water come from? Let's take a journey from source to sea to find out. Source. The start of our river journey, high up in the mountains and hills, is called the source. Sometimes the water source is a natural spring where water bubbles up from deep underground. Often the source is rainwater and melting snow running downhill, gathering speed as it goes. Upper course. This first part of a river's journey is called the upper course. As water rushes downhill, it flows over rocks and boulders, dragging them along with it down the steep slope. Over many years, water carves paths into the rock beneath it, creating streams and rivers. If the rock is soft, it can wear away so much that huge valleys and canyons are formed. Waterfalls. Waterfalls are formed in places where hard rock meets soft rock. The soft rock wears away quickly, but the hard rock takes much longer to erode and ends up being much higher up than the soft rock. Middle course. The river slows down when it reaches flatter ground. This is called the middle course. Rather than flowing in a straight line, natural erosion causes a river to meander, bending and looping through the countryside. Tributaries. Rivers and streams join together along the way. They eventually form larger, wider rivers. Small rivers that feed into bigger rivers are called tributaries. Lower course. Eventually, the river reaches the lower course. The river often widens out into estuaries or deltas, where sediment, sand, soil and rock, carried many miles by the river, builds up.
Alright, thank you very much. So now, as you've seen, that we used a river course in order to broadly explain, rather elaborate on these processes that we said we are going to be focusing on, of which it's weathering, it's erosion, and then deposition. So the first question I will ask you, class, is that why do sometimes you see mountain that becomes small hills? You understand? So in order for us to understand why the mountain end up as smooth hills, it's because of the first process that we said we are going to be speaking about, of which is weathering. And then ask yourself, how does sand end up? Because as you saw on that video that was represented there, they said that there is soil that you find by the river mouth. And then ask yourself, when you explain the shape of the planet, what effects does erosion, deposition, and weathering have on it? All right. So I'm going to demonstrate. I'm going to have a brief demonstration with us, of whereby we are going to be having an erosion and a deposition. So here I have my small presentation here. So as you can see, this is the source. The source, meaning this is the planet. Here we have a river course here. So this will represent, water will represent the river, and then this soil will represent the river bed. So what we want to see here is erosion and deposition. As you can see, as I'm pouring water, this is the water, right? You see that these sediments that were here start moving from this upper course to the lower course. So what is happening there? So when we speak about erosion, we're speaking about the transportation of these sediments that are in the river course, the transportation from one point to another point. And then when you Okay, let's look again. You see, when all these sediments are being transported, they're all being transported, and then a sediment that was here from point A to point B, when this sediment move from here to here, what do we call it? Because we don't call it erosion, we call it deposition. So we come from erosion until deposition. I hope this made you understand broader of what erosion and deposition actually mean. All right, we'll come back here. We're back. I will explain to you what does actually weathering means, the definitions of weathering, the definition of erosion, the definition of deposition. So weathering, it's the breaking down of rocks. So we have a mechanical weathering and chemical weathering. So when we say breaking down of rocks, we mean that it could be due to weather, because we see the term weathering. So it could be due to rainfall, it could be due to snow, it could be due to wind. So when we speak about snow, how does snow break up rock? There is a process that is called frost shattering, whereby when the snow is still a liquid phase, it seeps into the rocks, and then when it freezes, it expands. As you know, that ice expands when it freezes. When it expands, it breaks up those rocks. That is how weathering transpires, and that usually happens where they're up in the mountains, and as you saw in the video. And then when we speak about erosion, we speak about the movement now of this weathered material by the wind, by the water, or by the water, maybe by the snow that has melted. So when this weathered material is being moved now from the upper coast to the lower coast, we call it erosion. And then we come back to deposition. Deposition is now the laying off of that eroded material. We can call it sediment or whatsoever. Alright, so now class, what I will do is that I will give you pictures. These pictures, as you can see, I have 3 pictures there. So you must try to tell me which one is this one. Is this weathering, erosion, or deposition? This one weathering, erosion, or deposition? This one weathering and erosion or deposition? So now, when you say, as we said class before, say, where does a weathering usually happen? There, at the upper part of the river source, we usually call it. So here, it can either be ice, rain, or wind. And then we come back here. This material that was weathered here, when now we are transporting it through the river course, we find out that now we are transporting these sediments throughout the river course. As you can see, this rock is not from here. As you can see, all these deltas that have been created here. We have a delta here, we have a deposition here. And then we come back to the river mouth. As you can see, the river mouth is wide open. Unlike this stream, it's wide open. Why? Because the river mouth is at a gentler slope. Now the gentler slope allows for the soil to be deposited everywhere. And then when we see here, there are smaller little tributaries that are being created because now the river is giving off. It's tired and now it's depositing. Alright, as we crocodile. So, class, today we have learned about weathering, erosion, and deposition. So now I will ask a few questions in closing. I will ask a few questions so that I can see that you class were actually being attentive. So just a quick quiz. I'll give you three questions. What is the difference between erosion and weathering? What is the difference between erosion and weathering? So when we speak about erosion, you have to remember we are speaking about the transportation of weathered material. You understand? We are speaking about erosion. It transports. You transport. You are transporting the weathered material. And then when I speak about weathering, we are speaking about the breaking down of those materials, breaking down of rock at the upper coast due to what? Wind, rainfall, or ice. And then now the second question says, please focus there. It says, name one example of deposition. You have to give me one example of deposition. Please, just one example of deposition. Please, anyone. One example of deposition. One. Right. When there is depositions during along the river course, there can be many examples that we can create. For example, we have meanders. Meanders are an example of a product of deposition along the river course. And then we have there by the river mouth, whereby we find smaller tributaries and deltas that are caused by what? Deposition. And then the third question, why is it important to prevent soil erosion in your community? Why is it important to prevent soil erosion? Mind you, what causes soil erosion? What causes soil erosion is that the soil is not strong enough. You see, so we must find ways on why is it important to prevent soil erosion. So this question, you'll meet in class with the activity. So this is the activity that I need you to do at home. No, not at home, in class as we crocodile right now. So this is a learner activity, as you can see there. So the topic is weathering, erosion, and deposition. So the first question, match the term with the correct description. So weathering, and then you describe there. You match the term with the correct description. So please, class, as you crocodile, please focus on this activity. Thank you.